Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us, Alex Granger. Alex is CEO of Barisan Gold, which can be traded as BG on the TSX Venture. Thanks, Alex, for being here with us today.
Thanks, Jeb.
Alex, Barisan is exploring for this gold-copper porphyry system, one of the highest grade discoveries that I've seen recently in Indonesia. Talk to us about the significance of some of these historic gold-copper porphyries, about mining in Indonesia, and what you find is so unique and advantageous of exploring in Indonesia right now.
Yeah, thanks, Jeb. Actually, most of the porphyries on the planet, I'd say almost all of them, are located on this, what we call this ring of fire. And the ring of fire is basically covers the Pacific Ocean. So it starts in Chile, goes up to Peru, Ecuador. We have some in Arizona. We have some in northern BC and Alaska. And then it goes back down the other way through Japan, Philippines, Indonesia, and New Zealand. So that ring of fire is basically where all the major porphyry system on the planet are located. And, it was important for us that if we were going to go look for porphyries, to go look into the number one addresses in the world for porphyries. So Indonesia is basically home to two of the highest grade, best porphyries out there, whether it's the Grasberg mine of Freeport, which is the largest porphyry gold copper mine in the world, or Batu Hijau of Dumont. So we really picked an address that we thought was appropriate. We're right along trend of those two deposits. We're in Aceh province at the northern tip of Indonesia. It's probably one of the few places left on the whole ring of fire that hasn't been explored in the past. So we really wanted to target in the right address, but somewhere new. We didn't want another project or an old project from somebody else. Indonesia is known for being one of the most volcanic, earthquake, tsunami places on the planet, and that generally means that there's a lot of geological potential. Lucky for us, we've discovered a huge, brand new porphyry system up there in Aceh province in Indonesia. We're blessed with geology, and on top of that, we've got one of the highest grade porphyry discoveries of the last 2 decades. Our hole 5 returned 200 meters at 1.4% copper equivalent. I'd qualify that as the probably the second best hole of any junior in the porphyry system over the last 2 years, and the only hole that was better than that was in Ecuador, which also sits on the ring of fire. I would add that unfortunately, Indonesia does carry some political risk. It's a developing country. It's an evolving politically, economically, and that usually impacts mineral laws and whatnot. But we have to go to countries like Indonesia or Ecuador or Colombia or Mongolia or the Philippines to find these high-grade porphyries, because they no longer exist in Canada, the U.S., or Australia or Chile. They've either all been discovered already or all mined out. So we're really in the business of high-grade discoveries, and these low commodity price environment, that's what's important. So we went to the best addresses to find those, and luckily enough, and a true testament to my geological staff, we've actually discovered one.
Yeah, and Alex, you mentioned that there's Freeport operating there, there's Newcrest mining, there's Newmont. Talk to us about the future of mining in Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesia's got a rich history of mining, going back to the 1600s when there was a Dutch colony. So Indonesia's one of those resource countries, if you want, not dissimilarly to Australia, Canada, South Africa. So the good thing for us is that Indonesia is not new to mining. Mining is endemic, and it's part of Indonesian history. The people there, 2 out of 3 people has probably worked or related work to the mineral sector. And what that means is that you've got a population in a country that's very welcoming of mining exploitation. And that's really important in these days. There's a lot of companies trying to set up mining industries in new countries, whether it's Ecuador or Mongolia, these days, and being able to operate in a country that has a rich mining history is important. Now, the second point is there's a lot of foreign mining companies that are present already in Indonesia and have been for a long time and have made a lot of money. And whether that is Freeport, you know, the U.S.'s biggest mining company, they've built the Grasberg mine in the 1970s. It's still in production. They're really happy. They've generated a lot of money. They've gone through probably 17 different governments and jurisdictions in there, but they've survived throughout, and they've done very well. Newmont's another one. Newmont owns a big copper gold mine in Indonesia at Batu Hijau. That was built in the 1980s, and Newmont has returned huge money to investors from that investment. ExxonMobil is another one. There's a huge gas field in the north of Indonesia that ExxonMobil is targeting there. So Indonesia not only has a rich mining history, but there's a rich history of foreign companies, and to be honest, mostly American companies doing very, very well in Indonesia. So you know, that gives us the confidence. You know, it is a developing country. It is going through changes, but you know, the historical background here is extremely positive and gives us the confidence of doing business in Indonesia. You know, building a mine and operating a mine like the deposit that we found is a 50-year proposition, and you have to have a 50-year outlook on a country, and you know, looking back 50 years to what Freeport has done gives us a lot of confidence.
Alex, you're sitting on one of the highest grade porphyry discoveries of the last 2 decades. How much does a Freeport or a Newmont want a new project or an exploration project with new reserves and resources?
Well, I think the point is not how much they want it; it's how much they actually need it. You know, in mining, the mining business, your resource is finite. We don't have at Grasberg. There's not an unlimited amount of copper and gold. Once the copper and gold is going to be mined out, it needs to be replaced. And companies like Freeport and Newmont and Vale and Rio Tinto and Tecominco, they need to look at the future. And the future, if they want to keep producing the same amount of copper that they're producing every year into infinity, they need to have a pipeline of new projects and new deposits to come and replace the old ones. Like I said, Grasberg's been in production since the 1970s. You know, that's 50 years. Almost. And, you know, Grasberg's eventually going to run out. So companies like Freeport have to look at deposits like ours. We're obviously not the only one in the world that they're looking at, but they have to, because they need to replace their resources in order to guarantee their shareholder appetite for 1 million tons of copper production per year.
Alex, talk to us about the drilling so far. I mean, you've identified 3 distinct high-grade zones, and there's 2 additional high-grade areas. Talk to us about the drilling so far in 2014. I understand you have 2 rigs out there on the property right now.
Yeah, look, Jeb, we've drilled 6 holes so far into the porphyry system, and it's important to understand that porphyry systems are huge systems. What we're looking at here is about half a mile north-south, half a mile east-west, and about a mile deep. So these systems are huge, fully mineralized, and they take time to drill. You know, we drill, each one of our holes goes a mile deep. So these holes don't take half a day or 2 or 3 days to drill. They take 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to drill because we're going really, really deep. So over the last 6 months, we've drilled 6 holes. We've got 2 rigs on site drilling 24 hours a day. So holes number 7 and 8 are in progress, and we'll keep doing so and probably add rigs as time goes. We've been lucky in that all 6 of our holes have been mineralized from surface to the bottom. We would call, if you want, hole number 2 our discovery hole, because hole number 2 discovered the first of those 3 high-grade zones. The second high-grade zone was discovered in hole 4, and the third high-grade zone was discovered in hole 6. So as you can see, we're really just getting started. We're finding new high-grade zones at a rate of every 2 holes right now. The high-grade zones that we have are open in all directions in that depth. So we're really just getting started in this deposit. Now, the good news is that for every high-grade zone that we've discovered, we've at least hit it with 2 or 3 or 4 holes. So we know that this is not just some small shoots and everything, that these are actual zones, and they're progressing well. Now, what we qualify a high-grade zone is anything over 1% copper equivalent. And 1% copper equivalent, Jeb, is really the watermark when it comes to porphyries. If you ask a Freeport, a BHP, or a Teck Caminco what they deem to be a high-grade discovery, they'll tell you that they need a minimum of a 100-meter intercept at 1% copper equivalent. Now, I can tell you that all 6 of our holes have drilled at least 100-meter intercepts at 1% copper equivalent, and at least 4 of our 6 holes have hit 200 meters of 1% copper equivalent, some of them all the way up to 1.3% copper equivalent. So, we've met all the criterias that the majors set themselves in terms of determining what is a high-grade discovery, what is a major discovery, and we're right in there. Now we're still at the discovery stage, where I'm not trying to, the current holes are not trying to delineate a resource or find the extents of the deposit. What we're really chasing is, one, more high-grade zones, and understanding better the current high-grade zones that we have. We don't even know whether there's a potential that our 3 high-grade zones, they all connect and become one huge high-grade zone. It's still early days, but, we're fairly confident. You always, cross your fingers after the first hole that you hit a high-grade intercept, because you're hoping that it's a zone and not just a narrow shoot. I can tell you that 6 holes later, and what we have so far in holes 7 and 8, that these are truly zones, and this is truly a spectacular porphyry discovery.
Alex, you have a $5 million market cap, approximately under $2 million cash on hand. You only have about 45 million shares outstanding. Can you talk to us about how Barisan may be undervalued compared to many of the peers that have these gold, copper, porphyry discoveries?
Yeah, Jeb. We've paid the price of the junior market recently and in recent years, and have bitten our tongue during this downturn. There's no doubt in my mind that 5 million market cap with this cash on hand and the holes that we've put in so far, we're so far underwater in terms of valuation that it's a no-brainer in terms of buy. The best way to look at what our value is in terms is to look at it relative to other companies. And I've put on my presentation, which is on the website, there's a nice comparable chart that looks at 2 other juniors out there that are exploring for porphyries, that are a similar stage of exploration, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7 holes, and that are similar developing countries, and in this case Ecuador and Colombia. And those companies that have similar grades, similar projects, and similar political jurisdictions at similar development stage have market caps anywhere from 3 times to 10 times ours. So there's no doubt in my mind that we're undervalued. If I knew why we were undervalued, I'd probably be sitting with a crystal ball doing something completely different. But there's no doubt we're undervalued. Management is regularly in the market accumulating stock, and I have no problems at these prices looking anybody in the eye and saying that this is a great buy and a value proposition for any investor out there.
Alex Granger, CEO of Barisan Gold, which can be traded as BG on the TSX Venture. You can find more information at barisangold.com. Thank you, Alex, for being here with us today.
Thanks, Jeb.